We are so excited. We've just got another minute before we get going here, but it is chilly where we are here in Florida, in spite of the fact that we're in the tropics. I was out on a beach walk this morning. The temperatures were just getting into the 60s, and I got a headache because my ears were so cold. So I'm definitely ready for these 80-degree daytime temperatures that we have in Belize. I'll likely extend my trip again, like I did when Denver and I were down in August, and spend a few days just splashing around in the Caribbean Ocean because who doesn't love that? Um, I will go ahead and just kick off what we're going to be covering today so everybody knows what we're going to be covering today. So first, the first little bit that we'll cover is going to be who this retreat is for and who you're going to meet at the retreat, meaning who's hosting. When the trip is, not just when it's happening, but we also have a sample daily agenda to share with you so that you can take a look at that. We'll talk about where we're staying, what location we're going to be in, and then what the additional accommodation types are, and then how, of course, if you want to join us, to book and pay. If you have any questions over the course of this, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or here on LinkedIn, please just drop them in the chat. Denver and I are going back and forth, keeping a running list of questions to address, and we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing just so you can see our faces. We'll introduce ourselves. So Denver, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Denver Clark, and I'm a certified yoga therapist, yoga teacher, training facilitator for over 10 years now, former studio owner, and then retreat center manager, and now small private studio owner. My space currently that I do body work and yoga therapy in holds about 6 people in a group setting, and primarily doing one-on-one and a lot of yoga teacher training, continuing education, and specializing in that through yogateachersupport.com. So I'm very excited about this opportunity to get away and talk shop with people that have similar experiences and understand each other's woes and successes, and also share some of the tools and the things that have worked for me and allow others to do the same. We've been doing our monthly yoga teacher support Sangha meetings this past year. There's been space at the end of all of our classes for individuals to just share what's going on with them, and the sheer amount of support and love in the space virtually from other teachers and studio owners and people in the healing profession has just been incredibly moving. And so Emily and I got together in June, last May or June,
Yeah,
and
I think it
said,
was May
what
or
can
June.
we do to create this experience all the time? The experience that we have in our teacher training program of camaraderie, of being able to just talk about our personal journey, but also the journey as teachers. And so this is our unique experience that came about of that. It's all the best things of yoga teacher training. You get a little bit of continuing education. You're able to add to your wheelhouse as a teacher, but you're also able to get all of the retreat centered activities and just relax. So I'm very excited about that. So that's
And I am Emily Penfold Dailey. I'm the founder of Penn Daily Consulting, and I have been doing yoga for 20 years. I took my first yoga teacher training virtually in 2020 and then redid it again in person in 2021. Went through my 200 hour and then my 300 hour. And my group of people that I was connected with on my 200 hour, my 300 hour, we're still connected. When we're in town with one another, we'll grab coffee or something to eat. We have celebrated our moves across the country and the globe with one another. And that sense of connectivity and community is something that I really enjoy. It makes it a richer learning environment. And as a small business owner, my cohorts of other women who are experiencing the same things I am, is rewarding, fulfilling, nourishing. It fills me back up in a way that just sitting in my office by myself doesn't. But on top of being a yoga professional and teaching at other studios, I also focus on branding and marketing and sustainability. And my focus is really around hospitality, tourism, and wellness. So places that connect people to each other, connect people to themselves, and connect people to different cultures and communities and environments that they wouldn't normally be in. I've been traveling solo for work and for pleasure for over 10 years now as a woman traveler. And I know that that's an anomaly for some people. And I also travel internationally by myself and quite enjoy it. So the ability to create a safe and thoughtful environment for other people to come in. We all hold space for other people in class or in ceremony or in session in whatever capacity that we do. And being able to just sort of like shake that off and let somebody else take care of you for a little bit and let yourself receive when you're so used to giving. I wanted to be able to create that. So that's one of the reasons why when Denver and I started talking about this, I got so riled up and excited about, yeah, we've got to do it. We've got to do it now. I think we need to take the big bite and the big jump and go for it right out of the gate. So that's the two of us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that we can move on and talk about who else you might meet at the retreat. So, who should go? This, as we mentioned, from our experience, would be great for yoga teachers, whether you teach regularly or whether you're just certified and you don't teach and you just want to be able to re engage with that community feeling that you had during your 200 or 300-hour teacher training. Studio owners, regular yoga teachers, people who facilitate retreats, people who hold ceremony, yoga therapists, massage therapists, general wellness professionals would all be great for this retreat. And generally speaking, anybody looking to escape the cold in the middle of winter who has a passport, go for it. Denver, anything else that I'm missing here?
No, I think one of the questions I've had a few times from people is, well, I don't consider myself to be a professional, a yoga professional. I'm not currently teaching, or I'm just out of my teacher training. And what's important to note is that if you are sharing your voice with others in any capacity, whether it's traditionally in a yoga class or having coffee with a friend, you are professionally sharing your voice. And so we have, heard that feedback. This is really for healing individuals. And if the word professional bothers you, it won't by the time you're done with this retreat, thanks to Emily and her ability to boost you up and make you realize that you really are the CEO of your own life, not just your business, not just your teaching, but everything. And so that sense of empowerment has been really magical for me in my relationship with Emily. So I'm very excited for other people to get to absorb that as well.
Yay. And I do want to point out that as you see photos throughout this many of these photos are from Denver and I's trip in August to the retreat center in Belize. We wanted to be able to go ahead of time to make sure that we felt really comfortable with the process of arriving to the country and arriving to the retreat center and to be able to authentically talk about what it would be like to be there. So these are photos from our trip or photos that are directly from Satwa land. I do want to point out before I move on that there are some other people that you'll meet during this event as well. So Sam and Julia, who I don't have pictured here in this deck, but Sam and Julia are the partner group that run the kitchen side of things and run the operational side of things on property. So you'll meet them. They both hold ceremony and space at Satwa Land Retreat Center as well. So we have engaged with them for a few different things. Most importantly, the Mesoamerican cacao ceremony that we'll be having during the retreat will be facilitated by Julia. So they actually make their ceremonial cacao on site. They have cacao trees on site. They harvest and process their chocolate to make either chocolate bars or ceremonial cacao. So we're really going to be able to like get in the juicy bits with what's available on the property in the earth in that rich environment.
I also think, in terms of learning from one another, the experience that Julia has had founding and running the retreat center with her family, which is very familiar to me, and that Sam has had um, running retreats all over the world, which is how he met Julia, and the two of them coming together and being able to give us a glimpse into the back end of all of this is incredibly helpful for yoga teachers who are maybe interested in doing this in the future, studio owners who fall in love with this particular space and want to return to it. The sense of connection that I have with them on a professional level has just been incredible, and they're so generous with their tips and their feedback and their experience, and we have just hours of videos of us interviewing them on our trip. which you can find on our YouTube channel as well, among many other walkthroughs of the space. And so it's not just coming to learn from Denver and Emily, it's coming to collaborate with everyone who is hosting the retreat and everyone who is attending the retreat, which is a whole team of individuals, and drawing upon everybody's unique individual experience and their additional certifications and qualifications to understand where you might want to take your journey next is, I think, really invaluable.
Thank you. And if you haven't already read it on the screen, if you're just listening from the via your car or out on a walk or something like that, this event happens from Thursday, February 6th until Tuesday, February 11th, which was very strategic because that means that you only have a few days out of your studio space or a few days out of work if you are a professional. So that's a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday that you would take time out to retreat with us. And the general broad strokes agenda is the 6th is a day to arrive, and we'll have a welcome ceremony and you can acclimate yourself to the space. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but it's a beautiful, lush, tropical jungle environment there. There's natural pools and hiking trails to wander around and lots to explore. So really just to allow yourself to get acclimated there. Friday will begin programming. And program basically for us just means a day that's spent in the retreat space on the property. We'll talk a little bit about what a sample program agenda, like a normal day at the facility would look like. And then Saturday and Sunday over the weekend, we have excursions offsite. So Saturday, we're going to do a really wonderful cultural immersion, going to a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Zunun Tunich is an amazing Mayan temple. You pass a hand-cranked bridge to get there. You go up a mountainside, and there's this amazing Mayan temple and temple spaces. There's multiple spaces that are up there that have been rediscovered, and they're working on continuing to excavate those spaces and bring them back and preserve them. So we'll be doing that on Saturday. And then Sunday, we have a half-day beach excursion. So you can get some of that Caribbean Ocean in you in February, which is great. And then Monday, we have the ceremonial cacao ceremony. And then Tuesday morning, we have breakfast and we head out back to our daily lives. So we'll go into a little bit about what a program day would look like. I'll pull that agenda up, and then Denver, if you want to talk through that, we can also, again, answer any questions anybody might have about what a sample daily agenda might look like.
That sounds wonderful. So, one of the things that was challenging for me as someone who primarily specializes in teaching teachers was pulling back from the the heaviness of all of the education and finding a way to integrate a retreat style experience with an educational experience. And I think we've done a really nice job with that. So every day we'll be beginning the morning with an optional practice and meditation led by myself or Emily, depending on the day. And this gives you an opportunity to get back into your body, to get into your personal practice, and just show up for you. And of course, we'll be theming those practices based on the theme of the day, and supporting you as individuals who are holding space for others and need to fill up your cup. This is open to you and any guests you might choose to bring, whether or not they're yoga teachers. It's a class and a meditation. You have the option to schedule a Swedish massage with the therapist on site while you're there, or you can just relax and enjoy the spaces. After breakfast, we will have a few hours, usually 2 or 3 hours of a workshop, which again is optional. Things like branding and marketing, planning your year ahead, because we are meeting at the beginning of the year, finding your authentic voice as a teacher. They're not just business workshops, they're workshops that apply to all of the aspects of presenting yourself as a yoga professional. And even if you don't own a business, when you're teaching, you're presenting yourself. You have a voice, you have an image, you have your own personal brand. You are, as Emily has said to me and has never left, you're the CEO of you. And so being able to present yourself in a way that feels authentic to you, not in a way that you feel you must do because of what's on social media or because what the other teachers in the area look like. So we're going to work on that. We're going to work on who are you, what matters to you, what are your values, how do you put that into yourself as a teacher and the way you speak and present yourself, and what does that look like in terms of outreach to others? How do you get your message from you out to the world, right? So these are the types of workshops we'll be having. Then we'll have lunch. Then we'll have opportunities throughout the day to come together in Sangha or community. So each evening there will be a question posed for us to discuss together as a group and learn from everybody in the group as well. So here's an example program day: practice and meditation, breakfast, a workshop, lunch, another short workshop, something like planning retreats, getting an opportunity to talk to Sam and Julia and Emily and myself about all of our experience running retreats in hospitality management, etc. And then, of course, a fair bit of ceremony as well. So all of the yummy, feel-good experiences we've planned, not just the cacao ceremony, but also an opening and a closing ceremony. And there's a theme to every day. So there's a cohesive experience journey that we plan to take you on, which is very important to both of us because we're kind of um, type A dramatic people who both come from performing arts. And so creating a journey is our favorite thing in the world. So,
Set the
um,
stage, craft the experience, all the
yes,
senses need to be
exactly.
awakened.
And then talk about how do you do that for other people and why does it feel so magical, right? So that's part of what we'll be doing.
And then one of the other things I want to call out that isn't directly on the agenda that Denver alluded to, but there's a lot of downtime, quiet time to hang out in a hammock, to go for a walk, to swim in the natural pool between breakfast and the first, workshop, or between lunch or dinner. And we just want to make sure that you have time to enjoy that facility and that space as much as we did when we were there in August, because we don't always take time to rest. And so I think all of us could use a little bit more of that. So some of our days are going to be really exciting. You won't hear the music on this, but I did just want to give you like a little bit of a sneak peek at what Zunantunich looks like. So this is the Mayan temple that we'll be visiting. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are a number of different mounds that they found on the site. It's wonderful for hiking. It's also a state facility, or a national facility in Belize. So they have picnic facilities that we can have lunch at, and really wonderful way to just sort of like get yourself lost in the cultural experience of this Mesoamerican location. So there's beautiful carvings across all of the stone, and this is a guided excursion for us. So this is another one of the wonderful individuals that you'll get to meet is our tour guide, who will be able to give you historical context, architectural context. What does the imagery mean? So you can really feel the power of where we are and get that sense of place and space.
And the tour guide is assigned just to our group. So,
Mhm.
for anybody who's been concerned about how to navigate, you only have to show up. And the airport is so very easy to navigate. I was intimidated. And by the time we left, I was driving myself to the airport. I dropped Emily off at the ferry so she could extend her trip. And I felt so comfortable because of how well curated everything was and how confident I felt in not just in the country itself, but because of the experience we had had and how many people we met, how friendly everybody was. So you don't have to worry about that at all.
And if you'd like to, Denver, talk a little bit about Satwa Land Retreat Center itself, and then I'll talk a little bit about Belize as a country and answer some of the common questions that come up with that.
Sawa Land is how many acres do you
20.
20-acre retreat center founded by a family with 3 adult children who now have spouses and children of their own. And so this family was originally from Italy. And so when you walk around the center, all of the craftsmanship of the buildings and the spaces that they've created is so incredibly beautiful and functional and sturdy and timeless. And I've been to Italy and it's just absolutely beautiful. Not to mention the food, of course, is incredible because of that as well. So probably the best meals I've ever eaten, including from my trip to Italy because everything was so fresh. So on this 20 acres, there are individual spaces. I'll drop a link in the chat for anybody who wants to look at it, to our YouTube channel, where we have an entire playlist where we walk through all of the spaces. So you can walk through the common area, you can walk through both of the optional accommodation spaces. So we have the garden house, which is kind of being immersed in the jungle, meaning that the indoor facility is where you sleep, and then it's a short walk just out the back door and a few steps to the outdoor bathrooms, which are absolutely beautiful this time of year. There is a wall around the bathroom, but you can shower to the sounds of nature and use the composting toilet. So it's an eco retreat center, meaning that your footprint on the land itself is going to be small, and you're going to learn a lot about how to immerse yourself culturally, but also environmentally from this experience too. And that's another thing that comes up for us as yoga teachers and healing professionals, is how can we lead a more sustainable lifestyle, and how do we fold that into the experiences we create for our students and people attending our retreats. In addition, there's this big, beautiful main house where we'll be meeting for all of our sessions in the yoga studio. The kitchen is there. There's a dining area that's absolutely beautiful, and an all natural pool with a waterfall coming into it that is from the water on the land. So you have lots of opportunities to engage in the space, to relax. Oh, Emily's putting her little mouse over all the spaces. You can also take a walk through the jungle. It's 20 acres, so you're not going to really run into anybody who doesn't work or live on the land or isn't in our retreat. And you can even take an excursion yourself through the jungle for about 45 minutes, I think the walk is, to a natural waterfall, which we have photos of and is pretty incredible as well. So whether you decide to come into the space and share time with us or spend time on your own, it will be time well spent. And it's quite a magical experience. Driving up to it, when we first arrived and we drove ourselves, which you won't have to worry about, it was sort of like driving into Jurassic Park. It was just so beautiful, the way the sun was coming over the hill, the drive up the hill into the space. So I think you're going to love it. And to know that it's family owned and that they've lived there now for, I want to say, 13 years, that they've been building this space. There's just so much love and intention and good energy there pouring from the family and their kids who live on the property, which is great. So for me, it's a very comfortable experience because I have also had that.
So we'll pull up those photos again in just a minute, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the country of Belize, because retreats happen all across the world. If you're leaving the United States and you could be going to Costa Rica, you could be going to India, you could be going anywhere. So where is Belize? It's in Central America along the Caribbean coast. So it's southwest of Miami across the Caribbean Ocean. To its immediate north is Mexico, and to its immediate west is Guatemala in Central America, and to its east is the Caribbean Ocean. It has the second largest barrier reef in the world, behind Australia and ahead of Florida. So amazing marine reserves. Hol Chan is a marine reserve that they've made a national park out of their reef system. They do a lot of ecotourism out there, converting what used to be massive fishing, overfishing operations to eco-tour operators, people who've been fishing the reefs for generations and know it very, very well, and literally have personal friendships with various sharks and turtles and fish that are out there. But that's just a little tiny piece of the country. The vast majority of the country is beautiful, lush, tropical rainforest, which is where we'll be spending a lot of our time on the interior of the country. Belize had formerly been part of the British Crown. So what that means for them is that their national language is English. They have their independence. They're no longer part of the Crown, but their national language is English. So it's generally really easy for people coming from English-speaking countries to be able to communicate there. And you will hear a lot of Spanish there, of course, because they're adjacent to Mexico and Guatemala. And they also still have some of their more regional indigenous languages as well. So there's the potential that you'll hear all sorts of wonderful languages and experience multiple deeply held, deeply rooted cultures while you're exploring the country. Belize uses the Belizean dollar, BZ. However, You don't have to exchange your US dollars for Belizean dollars. Many places accept a credit card, and you can also use US dollars, and they'll just give you change either in US or Belizean dollars. It is a 2-to-1 ratio, which means that for every one US dollar, you get 2 Belizean dollars. So one of the reasons why it was reasonable for us to choose Belize as opposed to a place like Costa Rica or India is that your dollar, the money, goes very far in that country. So it's less expensive overall than doing a retreat somewhere very, very, very far away where the exchange rate isn't as comfortable, or where there's been so much tourism in that community that the prices have really come up quite a bit. Many people who have experienced Belize before may have experienced Belize just on a cruise, meaning you probably spent most of your time in Belize City, which is the most densely populated place. It's very tourist heavy because they support the cruise operations when they come into the country. The airport is there, but we will only be spending a very little bit of time there getting through the airport. The airport is really easy. There's just a few gates, one line in for security, one line out for security. The plane lands on the tarmac, and you have tarmac side stairs to get down. So if you've never had the opportunity to experience that, it's really fun. It's common in lots and lots of countries. My airport here in Vero Beach, Florida does the same thing, but if you have only ever flown out of really large airports in the United States, it's an experience you might not have had before. So really easy to get in and out of. Again, we are handling all the transportation. So you'll arrive at the airport, we'll pick you up, we'll get you to the retreat center. Everything is taken care of while you're there. And then we bring you back to the airport, drop you off, and you're good to go. Safety as a female traveler is really important for me. So one of the things I recommend everybody does when they travel to a different country is to look at the Department of State, the US Department of State's recommendations for safety in a country. Because Belize has a lot of different sections. So there's the Keys off the coast, there's Belize City, and there's the interior, and there's the south of the country. What you will experience in one part of the country is different than what you'll experience in the other part of the country. So Belize is a very safe country. The things that they express concern about are basic things like pickpocketing and petty crime in Belize City. So minor violence, petty crime in Belize City. But all of the other areas of Belize are even more safe than that. So you're just about as safe in Belize as you would be in any American city. Call it New York, Miami, whatever the case might be. But you'll always have to make sure that you look at the Department of State and make an assessment that's right for you. But we've ensured that we can make it as safe as we possibly can. And yeah, so safety in the country, money in the country, time zone. It's in usually the central time zone, but they don't experience daylight savings time. So there is the potential that depending on where you're coming from, there might be a 1 or 2 or 3 hour difference while you're in Belize. But for those of us on the East Coast, it's either going to be a 1 hour difference or no time difference at all, because again, they don't go through daylight savings time. That's about all I can think of. What else am I missing, Denver?
I think that sounds great.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the accommodations that we have at Satwaland. So Denver, did you want to cover those?
So I dropped into the chat both on Facebook and our meeting a link to the walkthroughs of all of the spaces. So you can actually see a video and a tour of every bedroom that you might be staying in. One of the options that we have is a garden house, which is the house that we said before has the outdoor bathroom, just 2 steps out the door. And this is a twin bed in a room that's shared with another individual. That is the most cost-effective ticket we have at $21.25, which is incredible. It includes everything except for your airfare. You share that room with one additional person, but that house also has a common area with a beautiful little library where you can read, beautiful screened-in porches that you can experience, and then, of course, the entire rest of the property you have at your disposal. The queen room in the garden house is sold out. And then we also have the Shala room, which is the photograph that you're seeing here on the slide. That's where we stayed. There are two Shala options remaining, maybe one in the next few hours, because somebody I do believe is going to grab one of those rooms. So that would leave the king room, and that you can have by yourself or share with another individual. And those rooms in the Shala house have an indoor bathroom, still a composting toilet. The only difference between that and a regular toilet is that you don't put the paper in the toilet when you go. You put it in a trash can and then it gets removed by the staff every day. But it's a beautiful walk-in shower, which you can see photos and videos of, again, on our website or on our YouTube playlist. And then the king room, which is the one that is still available, has an ensuite kitchenette too. So we enjoyed tea there every morning and filled up our water bottles and brought home our leftovers from lunch and dinner, which we didn't eat because the next meal was so delicious and there was so much food. And boy, it was the best food I've ever had. So really comfortable, beautiful spaces, very clean. This time of year, incredible temperature in the air. Even when we went in August, there are no air conditioning units, but we slept with the doors open and the screens, were protecting us from any bugs, which there really were much fewer bugs there than I've ever experienced in Florida. And so we were able to sleep through the rainstorms in the summer, and it was beautiful. It's I think Emily had the
Yes.
best sleep she's had in years.
I have been tracking my sleep scores for 5 years. So those of you who are on a Fitbit or Aura or Apple Health Kick know what I'm talking about. I had 96 sleep scores on all the nights that I was there. And in my 2024 roll up of my best months for both my sleep as well as my uh, heart rate variability and like all the other metrics of success and stress, August was my best month. And I swear it was just the few days that Denver and I were in Belize that did that. So it really skewed my numbers a whole lot.
Yeah, and us being that comfortable with no air conditioning in August means it's going to be absolutely beautiful now. So you might want to bring a light sweater though,
Yeah,
if you're
for sure.
Floridian like me and you're, sensitive to those things.
And I just want to make sure that everybody knows. So the Shala twins, there is the option. There are 3 twin beds in those rooms, so that can be shared with up to 3 people. I do want to point out, though, because we are so close to the date of the event, that Satwa will potentially begin opening up those rooms for other individuals, not to stay in the same rooms as ours, but these may not be available for much longer because they also have other people that come and stay on the facility. So if you are interested in going, do not wait any longer. We want to make sure we can get you in, and we want to make sure we can get you in at these awesome prices. So make sure that you take action as soon as you can. And there are still great flights available as well. So, okay. What's included in the ticket? Again, Denver alluded to this. We wanted to take as much out of it for you as we possibly could so that you don't have to worry about anything when you're here. So it includes 6 days and 5 nights at Satwaland Retreat Center. If you want to extend your stay, they have also offered a nightly rate for us for a few nights after the retreat as well. You could stay up to 3 extra nights on property if you wanted to. There's an additional nightly rate for that. Our tickets include accommodations there at Satwa. It also includes all your airport transportation to and from the airport from Satwa Land. So if you extend your trip, we'll bring you back to Belize City, and then you can get a ferry out to the Keys or join in whatever other adventure you were going to do. 3 vegetarian meals each day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have chickens on property, so eggs are fresh from there. We had coconut milk that's harvested from the coconut trees. We had bananas and papaya that came from the trees that are out there. This is a 20-acre rainforest, and the core of it is this more than 6-acre permaculture agroforestry land. And February is a great time in the tropics for fresh things like greens and all of our normal vegetables that you think of, like tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchini and squash and all that stuff. That stuff is all coming into harvest in the month of February. So it is going to be bountiful. We have daily yoga or meditation classes, which Denver talked about, and then access to the on-site amenities. So they have their natural pool. There's lots of walking paths. You can hang out in the garden. They have, I want to clarify those walking paths that they have. They actually have hiking paths that go through the rainforest. So you can take a mile, mile and a quarter, couple mile hike if you wanted to through their 20-acre property, and it goes through the virgin rainforest. So you don't see anybody, and other than the path there, that's as developed as it gets out there. We have our fully guided excursion to Zun and Tunich, that UNESCO World Heritage Site that I mentioned. We may also stop off in a city called San Ignacio, which we'll pass through to get there, depending on how much time we have. And then a half-day excursion to Henderson Beach on the Caribbean Ocean is included as well. And then our Mesoamerican cacao ceremony. And Denver and I always like special treats. So any other special treats that we choose to pepper you with are also included in that as well. So basically everything except for your flight and any extras you want. So the restaurant that we will be dining in, they also have a supplemental menu. So if you wanted to get a smoothie during a program or something like that, you can always get that as well. They also have a beautiful eco shop that has art from one of the founders of Satwa Land Retreat Center, and some of the chocolate that they make on site and other local goods. So if you wanted to get any of those would be additional. So, but yeah, we basically wanted to make sure you didn't have to worry about anything. Anything else I'm missing, Denver? Cool. Well, that brings us to the very end, which is, how do you get involved in the retreat? This is Denver and I hanging out in Belize City. We the night before we left, we went and spent a night at a really beautiful historic bed and breakfast right in downtown Belize City. Walked around, had a delicious breakfast while we were there, and Denver headed out to the airport, and I headed out to the Keys after that. But if you want to sign up, this QR code brings you to yoga teacher support /Entreprenew 2025, where you can see all of the links to all of the different walkthroughs, find out which accommodation works for you. And then Denver, do you want to talk about payment options for?
Yes. So leading up to the retreat, we did start advertising in June, and we had percentage payments, 25% at a time. That has passed. And so Emily and I have quite a few individuals we've been speaking with who still wanted to join and just couldn't quite make that 100% payment work. You can go through PayPal Pay Later, which is a 6, 10-month or 12-month payment plan, and they have financing, and then you can just put it all on a credit card right now through them. Or Emily and I are offering 4 individuals. So this is a limited offer through us, a 6-month payment plan with no interest. And that would be whatever your ticket is that you choose, whether it's the 21-25 shared room. We're going to split that up into 6 payments. So your first payment would be made now when you book the retreat. And then the following 5 months, it would roll through automatically on your card. So you can get away now, get inspired, get excited, which is exactly what we did. Hence our faces in this picture. We got home and just hit the ground running with our businesses. And because you did that, you're able to very easily pay off the rest of the retreat after you come home, which is a pretty generous thing that we're able to offer. And we're very grateful for that as well. So if you've been on the fence about it, this may be the universe telling you, we're doing everything in our power to make it possible for you to have this experience, because it matters so much to us to offer it.
We know it's been a really interesting year for a lot of people, and I'm going to stop share and then reshare so that you can see us, but I'll leave that QR code up on the screen for you. And I want to do this one. That's what I want to do. Okay. I think I did it. So we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to be understanding, right? We're both small business owners ourselves. We both have families that we care for and support. And I know that it can be really hard to take time to invest in yourself or to invest in your business. So we wanted to be able to provide that for everybody. There's another thing to consider for those of you who are business owners. I did a budgeting for yoga professionals training back in November of 2024. And one of the things I talked about at the end of that was just, we all as yoga professionals people who are certified, professionally certified to teach yoga, and wellness professionals sometimes forget that there are a lot of things that are business expenses, that when you go to your tax person at the end of the year and you say, I taught this many classes and this is how much money I made, forget that your blocks you bought for people to use when you teach your classes are a business expense. And our program offers 20 Yoga Alliance CEUs. That's continuing education training that is required for you to maintain your certification. This retreat is also a business expense. So if you have an accountant that you want to talk to about how you make that happen, do it. But this is one of those things that like you can do as a business expense, write it off as a business expense. So um, because we're
And
offering
roll it
those,
into a vacation with your significant other
right,
as well, if you want to.
which is exactly what I did. So the first half of our trip in August was a business expense for me because Denver and I spent all of our time doing content creation and writing and all that stuff, getting ready for you all. And the second half was on me because I wanted to take a few extra days, but my flight was a business expense to get down there. And my first few days at Satwa were all under Penn Daily as a business. So there's a lot of different ways to work through that. And the way we scheduled it is for that as well. Um, we'll go ahead and start taking some questions. One of the ones that I got right out of the gate was, can I bring somebody? And what if they're not a yoga person? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can bring somebody. And they do not have to be yoga certified. So those CEUs are optional. The yoga classes are optional. The excursions are optional. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. This is a very build your own adventure sort of thing, right? We've crafted this space for you to make choices that are best for you. And that might mean that you sit out of some of the trainings, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So if you want to bring somebody, their ticket is a lower cost. It just covers the other sort of pieces like flight and transportation, or not flight, but transportation and meals and their accommodations. And that's $1,495 for an additional person. So if you had a garden twin share at $2,125 and you wanted to bring somebody, their ticket would only be $1,495. So just know that that's an option. You can always bring somebody. If I'm a yoga teacher and I want to bring my daughter, if I'm a yoga teacher and I want to bring my mom, if I'm a yoga teacher and I want to bring my dad, your husband, your wife, your significant other, they are not obligated to do any of the things that they don't want to do. They can just float around in the natural pool all day. That's perfectly fine. So yes, you can bring a plus one.
Or that plus one could be, like we did, a team building retreat experience to plan the studio you want to open with the partner that you want to have, the retreat that you want to offer with your best friend who's also a yoga teacher, right? So there are a lot of really fun ways to make this a unique experience and just what you need. It's been a rough year. We both live in Florida. We've both experienced two significant hurricanes. All businesses in Florida have been significantly impacted during what is typically one of the busiest times of year. From October to December was really just hard. And what I can tell you is you can't afford not to fill up your cup and re-inspire yourself and get tools to get back on your feet after an experience like that. And I'm saying that firsthand. You can feel like it's all just slipping away and you're falling off the path and life is really hard. And I know that I've had years like that recently and throughout my life. And it's always when you find yourself back in an experience like this, whether it's your teacher training experience or a CEU, you can't afford not to do it. And I really sincerely believe that. And I will tell you that we will not be doing this out of the country in the next year. We might do one, in the States, but don't wait, because we're not going to be doing this all the time. So, if everything is in alignment except for one tiny little marble, we can help you put that in alignment and make this happen. All you have to do is tell us what that is, and our creative brains will be able to help you.
I also wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that Melissa from Satwa Land Retreat Center has asked ahead of time that everybody come with an empty stomach. as Denver communicated, the best food she's ever had in her life, and everything comes from the forest directly around there. So, exceptional food, and it would be remiss if I did not extend Melissa's request to come hungry. You won't leave hungry, but you should go hungry. Um, Denver also had we saw in the chat, I wanted to call out again that in case I missed it, baggage claim is super easy at the airport. You can, if I'm part of Club Carry On, meaning I do not like to check a bag ever when I travel. I only do carry on if I can help it. And all of our airlines that come into Belize would be places like American, Delta, Southwest even comes into Belize. So there's whatever those carry-on restrictions are, that's it. But if you want to check a bag, you absolutely can. And their customs is very quick as well. Denver, when we
15
went through,
minutes. I mean, it is the easiest flight I've ever taken in my life, and I have flown all over. And I used to live in Georgia, so I've flown through Atlanta multiple times. And I used to visit New York City to visit my father twice a year. And I've flown through LaGuardia and other airports in that area as well. So so easy. I mean, I was so intimidated and nervous. And Emily said, "There's nothing to be scared about." So I was like, "Well, how am I going to find you?" One door, two baggage claim turnstiles. That's it. There was my bag. Picked it up, turned around. There she was off of her plane. One door to get out. It took 15 minutes. And that includes the rental car, which you won't even have to worry about. I mean, it was just the easiest travel experience I've ever had in my life.
agreed. And I have, as I mentioned, I've been traveling solo for work for over 10 years now, and that's taken me all across the country. Maine, Alaska last year, all over California, the middle of the country, Texas, all the big states, all the little states, all the tertiary markets, all the major markets. Really a delight to fly into Belize, and this will be my third time there.
Another question I just got on the other chat is about leaving. So we are going to the airport on the departure day fairly early. I want to say around 8. So my flight's booked at 2 p.m. It's a really comfortable airport to hang out in. There are lots of shops and restaurants in there and lots of really comfortable places to sit. And what I did, I was so full from our experience and the conversations we had about work. I sat down with my laptop and I just started getting to work and creating all the things I had dreamed up. And so I enjoyed, one last meal, spent my last couple Belizean dollars in the gift shop on my kids, and sat there and relaxed and waited for my airplane. It really was just really easy to do. So you do want to find a flight that's going to be leaving probably sometime after, I would say, to be safe, after 12 o'clock if possible in the afternoon. So you have time to relax and you're not anxious about it. But again, it was really easy. When you
And
arrive, there are 2 airport pickups, an earlier pickup and a later pickup, but we don't want people to be getting to the retreat center in the dark. So we do ask that flights that are arriving on arrival day come no later than 4 p.m. at the very latest, if you can.
And there aren't many flights that arrive to Belize after that point anyway. So we've really set you up for success there. And don't feel like we'll abandon you if your flight is delayed for whatever reason. We'll be in communication with all of our attendees regularly. And Denver brought up a really good point that came up in our Q&A session when we were in country, which was, what can I get cell service when I'm there? The answer is yes. It depends on your carrier a little bit, but they do have, you can get some cell reception across the Satwaland property. In Belize City, you're not really going to have any problem at all. If you have a roaming plan, it will charge you whatever it charges you per day. Satwa does also have high-speed internet available. I encourage you to unplug if you can and not bring a device with you. But if you do need to get work done, or you've got family that you need to check in with, they do have high-speed internet. We found that there were some areas on property where it was like a little bit better than others, but it was not an inhibition at all. And then the other point is relative to passports. So yes, Belize is out of the country. Yes, you need to have a passport. You do not need to have a special like passport stamp before you arrive. So you don't have to request entry access to Belize. They will take care of it in country for you. And we actually have, there's a travel person who put together a really good step-by-step guide of the airport and what it's like getting through customs and, getting your visa stamped and all that stuff. So we'll be sharing that with anybody who signs up as well. It's really like here's what it looks like outside the airport. Here's what it looks like in the airport. Here's how the customs works. Here's how arrivals work. So that step-by-step process. You shouldn't have any trouble traveling with your passport as long as it's not going to expire within the next, usually 6 months is a good, frame. So check your passport, but if you've got one, great. If you don't yet have a passport, it's a little too late to get one now. The wait times for passports can be pretty long. So we'll catch you on our next one when that happens. But yeah, so passport, if you've already got it, you're great. And then I will also let anybody know if you're going to be coming into the country, if you need any cash when you arrive. It's a good idea to have maybe $20 of US dollars broken down into small bills. So 4 or 5s might be good to travel with. Again, I travel a lot for work. So for me, it's just a good idea to keep that. That we will have gratuity for the team at Satwaland, but if you would like to leave additional gratuities, you can. And I did totally forget to say earlier that if you have space in your luggage, for people who are going to be coming down in February, we will have recommended things. If you've got space in your luggage, recommended things you can bring to help the local community there. So children's books, because English is the national language, children's books are great to help those kids who are of school age start reading. So books are always great. Clothes are always great. So if you've got some extra space in your luggage, those are always wonderful things to bring. So that's part of our giving back to the community while we're there. We're making that as an option for everybody. You don't have to do it, but if you've got space in your luggage or you don't want to you aren't going to be checking a bag, but you could check a bag, maybe you check a bag and you've got some stuff in it that you can leave. So those are a couple pieces too. All right. Denver, do you see any other questions coming through on our other live streams?
No, not at this time. But if you have additional questions, you can reach me by email at office@yogateachersupport.com and Emily
At emily@pendaily.com. And I'm going to put that in the chat because it's PENDAILEY, emily@pendaily.com.
We'd love to see you there. We're going to have a great time. I cannot wait. Just talking about it has me all aflutter again about what an incredible experience it was. So we'd love to have you there with us. And we'll be doing follow-up monthly meetings for anybody who attends as well through yogateachersupport.com. So you'll get excited and then you'll be able to stay in touch with everybody for the 6 to 10 months following, or however long you want to stay in touch, and put those plans into action for your business or your teaching and continue the excitement. So.
All right. Well, thank you everybody here on Zoom. Thank you everybody on YouTube Live. Thank you everybody on Facebook Live. We are doing one other session later this week, but if you have any questions, as Denver and I mentioned, just reach out to us directly. If you just came across this for the first time and you're like, I had no idea this was going to happen. The divine timing is here. Let's make it happen. So just reach out and let us know. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday and a nice weekend.